Welcome into Gamecock Central Radio Live from the back porch, 1616 Gervais Street in downtown Columbia. I'm Chris Clark, joined here by the rest of our panel. We'll introduce in just a moment. Thanks a lot for being with us. If you're listening to us on delay on iTunes or on GamecockCentral.com, we appreciate it. But come out here and hang out with us next Wednesday from 8 to 9 at the back porch. If you are listening to us live, you still got time to come out here, get yourself some food, some drinks, and hang out with our panel. We're joined tonight by Mr. C.J. Driggers.
Hey.
C.J., hello. Our beat writer, Mr. Ron Aiken.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Glad you're listening in, whether it's live or via podcast download later. Happy to have you.
And Avery Wilkes.
Hi, I'm just glad to be here.
The rookie is just glad to be here. We've also got producer extraordinaire Chris Wellbaum. Thank you for everything you do,
Hello.
Chris. Hello. We want to take your questions tonight, guys. Recruiting, team stuff, whatever, UCF, Gamecocks, anything you want to talk about. We'll be glad to hit on it during the show. Couple ways to do it. If you're on Twitter, that's probably the easiest, most quick way to do it. It's at Gamecock Central. Just mention us on Twitter and get in your questions to us in 140 characters or less, I guess, and we will be glad to get to it. You can also email us at GCRlive@GamecockCentral.com. GCR Live at GamecockCentral.com. Guys, what's going on after the bye week?
Not much. I went out of town, went to Charleston last Saturday. Did catch a little bit of the Tennessee-Florida game. Feel good about USC's chances after watching that.
Yeah, Florida had a couple of they lost Dominique Easley today to a torn ACL, and he was playing probably as well as anybody in the country along the D-line. They lose Jeff Driscoll. That game was just sort of a comedy of errors on offense.
They looked like the Keystone Cops of college football for about 5 minutes there.
Was there maybe like 8 first-half turnovers or something like that? Something insane. I mean, it was some ACC football out there.
It was pretty bad.
Wow.
Let's talk about the bye week a little bit. For the Gamecocks, they obviously didn't play. They were able to sit at home. What were some of the things that they were able to accomplish from the bye week? Ron, you just got out of practice. Mm-hmm. Avery, you just got out of practice. Talk a little bit about that. I mean, injury situation, coming off the bye week. What did the coaching staff talk about that they worked on?
Yeah, it's so funny. Pete Giacobelli, good guy with the Associated Press, asked that question to Spurrier at his Tuesday press conference. What'd you guys work on? Offense, defense, and special teams. And, a big laugh went up around the room because obviously it's about as lame an answer as you can possibly give. And but that's really what they worked on. They went kind of back to basics. It was a chance to heal people up. Their injury list of the walking wounded is as little as few as it has been since camp started, and so that's precisely what they needed. It makes for extremely boring weeks for people like us who like to watch football and talk football, and when they don't do anything, there's not really a lot to get excited about. But from the standpoint of the team, they're happy to have it. They're able to work on some stuff, able to maybe correct some errors, some communication things that we sort of saw crop up over the course of the first few weeks of the season. And it looks like, if nothing else, get everybody on the same page, because clearly we've had some issues with communication between the coaches offensively and defensively so far that's boiled over into the public that I don't think they probably would have liked to have had.
I think the bye week comes at a great week for South Carolina. First week they really just got back to fundamentals. I talked to Brandon Wilds. He said that they were just working on cutting in practice. Came Whitehurst today, said that they were just working on your basic fundamentals. It's basically like a mini camp for the first week. And it comes at a good week. Like Ron said, this is probably the healthiest this team has been since the first week of fall camp. There's only really 2 players where you got Chaz Sutton and Jadavian Clowney that they're still a little dinged up, and they're honestly just going to be like that for the rest of the year. But this it gives them a good chance to rest up. Mike Davis's ankle is now perfectly fine, according to Everett Sands. And so it just comes at a good week for the team.
Another guy, Cody Waldrop, he returned to practice today, right, guys?
Started with the ones, so he's back in the rotation as well as he can be.
And no indication as to whether or not, Spurrier said Tuesday that they would make a decision maybe on Thursday about who would start, but Waldrop and Stadnick both got reps with the ones, right?
That's right. That's what they were told us, and that's what still appears to be the plan, that both of those guys will play on Saturday. They have different strengths, so it'll be interesting to see if they use them in different situations or run more with one and pass more with the other, or if they just kind of work them in there. It's kind of a situation where we talked to Sean Elliott. He said he likes to have the 5 best guys and then go, take them out there and go. So rotating players didn't the subtext was that didn't really sound like that's his ideal situation. And so I think he wants to identify who's the best guy and then have that guy go. And then just have some depth at the position, which is a blessing.
Yeah, isn't it amazing that was the big question mark heading into the season? And out of all the starting five, that's the one you kind of feel most comfortable about because there's a proven backup. Now, if the tackles or guards go out, who are the candidates? If Patrick gets dinged up or who's coming in? Chris, who do you think's coming in?
At guard, Brock Stadnick would be in there. Will Sport could be in there.
And they played how much this year?
None.
On the road.
Yeah, on the road. So, it's depth going into this season. I mean, we all thought that the offensive line would, take a step forward. And they've lived up to that so far, the starters. But still, same problem as last year. If you've got guys that go down with injury, you're sort of concerned about that going forward. And that was a big situation with tackle going into this season because you got Brandon Shell and Corey Robinson. They had a great offseason, but Mike Matulis wasn't able to get back. Cody Gibson was out for a while. He's back now. But for a while there, you had, Mason Zandy and J.P. Vonashek, who's a true freshman, not a ton of depth at guard. And then at center, Clayton Stadnick was just sort of a revelation. I mean, he's got more experience than Cody Waldrop now. He's played 2 games.
If somebody were to tell me before the season started, guess what? By the third week of the season, Clayton Stadnick and Mason Zandy will have started. After I stopped choking, what in the world is happening without offensive line? But obviously, Zandy got a little spot start there at tight end.
Do you think he'll be in the same position this week?
Why not use him out there? He's an extra blocker. He's no threat to probably catch the ball. But it's interesting that he's that he's out there. And that's a smart use of a guy like that. It's taking advantage of his frame, which is 6'9". I mean, he's ridiculous.
He's pretty athletic too.
Yeah, good athlete.
He was out there kicking the ball around. Was he doing field goals or punting?
Yeah, he was doing some weird stuff.
Yeah, he was kicking the ball after practice, just kind of goofing around. So he's a loose guy. Yeah.
Wasn't he a punter in high school? Wasn't he Chapin's punter?
Yeah, that's what I've heard from
him. And he played all the way up until his junior season. He played defensive end, and then they moved him over to tackle for his senior year, and then he went and camped at Carolina and Clemson, and both those schools offered him. And he's just as raw as they got, but he was 260 when he got to Carolina, and he's already 300 pounds now. So
I can tell you, if they started him at punter, they couldn't do any worse than they have done so far.
Come on, now you sound like me from the last show.
Well, I'm just telling you, he could only be 14th in the conference, and that's what South Carolina is.
I always wondered why they didn't take a walk-on guy like me back when I was in college, who the maximum punt was 30 yards, and use them in situations where you only need 30.
Right.
Of course, you had a chance of a shank in there, I know, but you would
chance.
Nice. Yeah, you're probably right. It might hit one out of 5 would be good. The other 4 would maybe go backwards.
An 18-yard shank on when you need 30 yards is better than putting it in the end zone and bringing it out of the 20.
Right. Speaking of the special teams, too, Spurrier made a comment, I guess last week, about just taking a knee in the end zone on kickoffs.
It's smart.
How many times do you scratch your head and just say, God, just take it on 25 every time? The offense is clicking, the offense is moving the ball.
Yeah, Avery, you made a really good point about this after the game last week with the changes in the rules.
Yeah, with the changes in the rules, you've got the kicking team is 5 yards closer, so the ball goes 5 yards farther. Plus, you've got the kicking coverage team is 5 yards closer. So there's really almost no incentive for ever taking the ball out unless you've got some sort of Jacoby Jones Super Bowl type guy back there, which South Carolina, quite frankly, does not right now. And even if you do, you're subjecting yourself to more punishment trying to take the ball out. And rarely have they gotten it past the 15, and almost never to the 25 this year. So I don't see why they don't just throw a Mason Zandy type guy back there, someone that is good enough with his hands to catch the ball, but maybe will think twice before running the ball out. And honestly, anything could be better than what they've had back there, guys that really haven't made anyone miss.
And then you fumble, and
absolutely.
Just makes it much more difficult for everybody. You put Vanderbilt in a game they had no business being in.
Absolutely.
John Carson is the magnet. He can find the closest blocker and try to run over his numbers.
It's like he's on the tackling team. He looks for the first guy available to hit, and he goes in and runs into him.
It's almost like he doesn't really want to do it, and that's the shortest way to end the play.
Then he can get back onto Twitter.
Yeah.
He is by far the most embarrassing tweeter. There might be a toss-up between he and Vic Hampton. Who sends out
Tweeter Twitterer?
Twitterer.
Twitter user.
Twitterati.
His tweets rarely are longer than 7 words, but boy, do they pack a punch.
They sure do. Was it he that had was telling me that had Dwayne McLemore from the state had mentioned that had school was a waste of time, WAIST.
Yes.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Well, you don't know
so
who
gems
he's
like
looking
that.
at. Yeah, you don't
The
know
irony.
You don't know which girl, which co-ed he was looking at.
That's right.
It might be
Well,
kind of
if
waste.
it was a Wednesday, we know it was White Women Wednesday.
Oh.
So he tweets that out every Wednesday. So look for that hilarious tweet.
You're kidding me. He actually puts that out there?
Yeah, a couple Wednesdays.
I just figured out what an MCM was.
What is that?
What is it, Avery? It's
Either Man Crush
Monday
or
that's
Man Candy Monday. I'm
Okay.
still not sure. I'm doing the research on
Now,
it.
has anybody here
Get
ever?
back to us.
Anybody ever been an MCM that you're aware of?
No.
Avery would be most likely. Since
one or
you're still in
two
college.
times. I don't
You've been an
know for
MCM.
actors.
Okay, impressive. I like it. I'll take it.
Back when I was in school, we used tablets. They were like etching it out with stone and whatnot. So there was no Twitter back then.
Let's talk about UCF some. Talk about UCF. Look back at that 2005 game. That's the last time South Carolina played UCF. Haven't played in a while, obviously, but that was Spurrier's first game. Mm-hmm. And you guys all, I'm sure, remember a little bit about that game. Quick, memory about that particular game being that sort of historically significant.
Yeah, I was there with my dad for that game. I remember being so excited in the stands there in the south end zone, the lower section, just a few rows over from where the team comes out, the 2001. And I remember so vividly that pass, the touchdown pass, I think 49 yards to Noah Whiteside, and it just looked great. It just looked great. And it was just like, whoa, here we go. The Spurrier Fun and Gun offense is in effect. We are going to just blow these dudes out. It is on. And then the rest of the game was nothing like that. And it was a nail-biter. And you're like, what in the heck? And it came down to a late stop, late defensive stop with a few minutes left just to eke out a win. And it was a harbinger of expectations to come with that offense. There was not going to be a Florida offense, and there has not yet been a true Florida run-it-up kind of an offense at South Carolina. And while it looked that way, I think, for everybody in the stadium for about 5 minutes, that quickly evaporated, and it became a nail-biter, which became the par for the course with South Carolina and teams even out of conference. There's no gimmies for those teams early on. Now, I think you can look at it and say that those wins are a little bit more assured, but they don't get on top of other teams like those Florida teams did and just blow them out 70-0. And those days are gone.
Well, from the sidelines, I remember the excitement was at a pinnacle there. Everybody was excited. It was Spurrier, and who knew that was probably the highlight of Noah Whiteside's career. He just didn't really pan out, I didn't think. I remember watching his video from high school, and his returns were amazing. I said, God, this guy is amazing. He's quick. He's going to be awesome. Spurrier-type Florida player. Man, it just didn't pan out. I'm sure he's a good guy, but that was the highlight of his career right there.
You had the great receiver recruit, right? Chris Cullen. Remember how awesome he did, that receiver? That was just wonderful. And who was the other guy that came in? The other five-star, there was 2, 4, or 5-star receiving recruits, and neither of them.
And
Travis Lee was one.
Ron's going a little bit ahead of Travis. So,
okay.
Spurrier mentioned Travis Lee recently.
No way.
Yeah, he did. It was a while back, but he said, "Yeah, we used to have those guys like so and so," and he named all these good receivers. He named nothing against Travis. He's a good guy, and he was solid. But he threw Travis in there. But
I don't think he made it all 4 years. I think he was excused at some point.
Excused
at the end of his career.
Yeah. But the guy I'm thinking of transferred it. I just
in the 2007 class, that was Culliver's class, and he was a 5-star receiver. Joe Hills was another guy from Florida. He was a 4-star receiver.
Where did he end up?
O.J. Murdoch is who I'm thinking
O.J.
of.
Murdoch, who unfortunately is not with us anymore. Carlos Thomas was
he was the other
in the 2005 class. Him and O.J. Murdoch both big-time recruits. I remember when that happened. And 2007 was Culliver, Joe Hills, and Matt Clements was another one who did not pan out from down in Naples.
The thing I remember from practice at the beginning of that season with Carlos Thomas, O.J. Murdoch, and Kenny McKinley was obvious from the first practice that Kenny McKinley was the best receiver of all of them, and he was a 2-star, 3-star quarterback.
McKinley, McKinley was a low 3-star. Yeah. Back to the UCF game, Avery. Quick memory from you on that game.
He was in elementary school, wasn't he?
Something like that. Might have been in 6th grade. I'm not real great at math, but yeah, that one was. I remember it being Spurrier's first game, and thinking I wasn't a big South Carolina fan or anything like that. I grew up a Miami Hurricanes fan. Props to my dad for that one. NCAA's ruined that for me recently, but moving on. Yeah, I remember seeing that first pass and thinking, this Spurrier guy, he's all right. But then, like Ron said, it just kind of died down a little bit after that. And it was a classic UCF game, if you think about it. I mean, UCF, they'll challenge anybody. They'll go up against anyone, and they'll get close to beating them. But they have one win against ranked opponents in the history of the program. So it's like it never really works out for them. But they get just close enough to where it kind of irritates the fans, and no one really leaves the game happy, but they hardly ever come out with the win.
Yeah, I was just going to give my memory real quick. Mine's just like Ron's, basically. I mean, I was actually in the stands for that game, and seeing that pass that came so early, and the excitement was just sort of palpable, I mean, you could just tell people were – it was like a combination of, like, relief and just, like, letting out all of this, like, negative energy for years and years.
The Holtz era.
Yeah. Where
finally there's an offense.
Yes, like quarterback draw after quarterback draw, and then you see this, but then it sort of turned out, it didn't go so well.
The high-fiving and the tears of joy. It was it was like that. That one moment, it's like, finally we have this kind of an offense here in South Carolina to just get excited about.
Yeah, I mean, the 5th play of the game, and they do that. And then what it turned out to be 24-15.
24-15,
yeah. 9-point win.
And a suck fest.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's amazing just thinking about the athletes, from that time until now. And you look, like, particularly on the defensive line, when you've got 270, 280-pound guys playing tackle, and now, you look at what South Carolina's got. It's pretty interesting to think about that.
Yeah, and the quarterback actually used the laces on that. And the quarterback who threw that magical pass was the QB. Blake Mitchell.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who had a birthday the other day.
Whose dad, by the way, his name is Nugget.
Yeah, Nugget was a cool guy.
Nugget.
I like Nugget.
A great story about him is Ron Morris was going down there to do kind of a big takeout piece on Blake Mitchell, and was going to his hometown, talking to his dad, Nugget, and took him out to eat. He's like, this is Nugget talk. He's like, now this is on you, right? He's like, yeah, the state's paying for this, and we're all drinking, right? He's like, okay, yes. And so he proceeded to get heavily intoxicated and talk, for the story. But that's Nugget Mitchell for you.
He was the pride of LaGrange, Georgia. And, that close to Auburn, it's kind of surprising he didn't end up there. I don't remember his recruiting story back then. Did you follow recruiting back in middle school, Chris?
Blake Mitchell, I think that one a little bit before my time. I got into it pretty early, but no. Blake Mitchell a little bit before my time.
I mean, he was a heralded recruit. I mean, people wanted him. It wasn't like it was a battle between Georgia Southern and Valdosta State or anything. I mean,
some of the other quarterbacks that came along at a similar era. The Tommy Beechers and the
Antonio Hefner.
Yeah, Antonio Hefner. Yeah, the list of sad quarterbacks is long, unfortunately.
Cade Thompson sighting somewhere, anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah. And these guys are like 30 now.
I know it's hard to think
about.
Know.
It's hard.
But that game was a bit of a harbinger of what was to come, and that was close, tough games, and not the kind of success you had hoped for initially, right off the bat, from Steve Spurrier.
Alyssa wants a freestyle rap battle between me, Chris Clark, and Ron. I think you might have to wait for a future show for that.
I'm always ready for a freestyle rap battle. Battle raps are kind of
we had one the other night.
They're kind of my thing.
I don't think the audience is quite ready for that.
I don't know. You never know. I thought I had a pretty good one about it's hard to do a battle rap about business cards. I think I did it.
Yeah.
I challenge anybody to freestyle rap about a business card and come up with something pretty impressive. But I did it. So what are you going to do?
We had a lot of very creative things, I thought, about rapping.
It was simple. It was just a little couple of lines. You got to come hard in the yard. and as God is my witness, I take what I want because my card is my business.
You know what? This is going down a bad path here. And unless you want to hear some of this freestyle rap, we highly suggest you submit questions to prevent us filling the time with that rap battle between three white guys. So please send us your questions at Gamecock Central on Twitter, GCR Live at GamecockCentral.com. We're here for you. I mean, we're doing this for you guys. You got Chris Clark, recruiting extraordinaire here.
And by the way,
and Ron and Big A, our rookie on the staff.
Nice job, Chris. Just a little kudos on following closely the whole sort of commitment gate that we've had over the past few days with Arden Key and Mr. Green. Good job on that.
Thank you. It's there's been a few of them over the years that sort of make you want to pull your hair out having to cover, and that was one of them. But there's a lot to sort through, and that was a complicated situation. But I'm not going to get into all those facts too much because we can go on for a really long time about them. But the biggest thing that stands out was some of the reactions that came from that whole situation. And just as sort of a get on the soapbox for a minute, I guess, anytime something bad happens in recruiting, there's a contingent of the fan base that just absolutely just wigs out, basically, for lack of a better term. And that's exactly what happened on this one. And, a story comes out in the AJC basically saying, South Carolina's coaches didn't contact the kids here enough. They were concerned about it. Never mind the fact that South Carolina could barely contact one of them because he's a junior. And then without getting any of the other facts, which there were plenty, people just go on and on about it. So it's a situation where, the kids aren't committed right now. They open things up. They're going to go to Georgia this coming weekend. They're going to go to South Carolina next weekend for the Kentucky game. And I think there's still a really good chance both of them end up in the class. So it's one of those things you just got to sort of let lie and get the facts, and before anybody has a meltdown, you know what I mean.
I got a question that comes to us. This is from Samuel, who asks, is there more conflict on the coaching staff than we are being told? I think it's a fair question, only because we've seen issues on the coaching staff erupt, is probably the only way to say that, on the sidelines in front of the cameras. And so when you have things that happen publicly, such as the conflagration between Deke Adams and Kirk Botkin, that leads to questions. What's going on with those two guys? Heat of the moment, I think people can understand. But then you have Spurrier come out at his press conference that next Tuesday and say that's something that'll be handled internally. We don't do that kind of, he might have said, crap around here. And then turns around the next game and he's the one. He was, and I said this before, he looked more furious than I've seen him look at any time since he's been here. He was fired up and just ferociously mad. And it wasn't just because Deke happened to be the closest coach to him that he had a question about. He was in his face and screaming. I mean, it was like, wow. And I was up in the press box and watching it through the binoculars. I had no idea that it even made, I didn't know if television was looking at it or not. And I was just sitting there saying to myself, dang, that is a mad man for a team that I believe at that point was maybe up 28-0, something like that. So when fans see that, when you see those things boiling over onto the field in that way, I think it's a fair question to ask, is there more conflict? Now, is there? Probably a little bit. Because things happen behind the scenes, personalities clash, or when Spurrier has to go onto the defensive side and talk to those guys, that doesn't make him happy. And if you're a defensive coach and he's knocking on your door, that's a bad day for you. You don't want Steve Spurrier coming over if you're Lorenzo Ward with suggestions. You want to be doing things so that he gets to worry about offense, because that's what keeps him happy when he's in that playpen. That's where Spurrier likes to be. He doesn't like to have to come over to the defensive side of the football and make suggestions or ask why these people aren't communicating, or why is Clowney dropping back into coverage on a fourth down, and because obviously he was intensely upset about it. And so there is a little bit of that, I think, because otherwise why does it spill over into the public? Why can't you keep it behind closed doors? And even when you say you're going to, you don't. That's a fair question to ask.
I got a question for you, Ron. What other nefarious things do you use as binoculars for out there?
I use my binoculars for the same purposes that every other man uses their binoculars for at a football game. I'll leave it right there.
The behavior of the student section,
yeah,
right?
So you need to make sure you're not missing out on any fights. Fashion updates are important to know what people are wearing, that kind kind of thing. Sure, you got to pass the time.
Please pay attention to the UCF student section.
To try to find Brock's girlfriend,
I'll do
Blake Bortles.
I'll do my part with the camera to capture what's going on in the student section. You do your part with your
I'll do
nefarious
that. I'll do that.
binoculars.
It's
there.
so funny. We'll post a story that you really worked hard on Gamecock Central, and it won't have nearly the number of view posts that a picture of Blake Bortles' girlfriend does. It's disheartening sometimes to be frighteningly truthful. But did you see the picture? I clicked on it. I looked at it. And what am I supposed to do? I'm a guy.
They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and that's why
1,000
she
click-throughs.
keeps me, Paul, and Chris on staff.
That's right.
I wanted to just join the discussion real quick about the coaching staff issue, and I think if it happened again, then at that point you sort of go, what's going on here? Because there's so many cameras. It was just like it sort of reminded me of the ESPN Clowney thing in the first game. Oh my gosh, Clowney's so tired. Well, I'm tired too, and I'm just sitting outside. They have a camera on him the entire time. There's 300 cameras at a college game. They capture that exchange, or if you want to call it that, between Coach Bach and Coach Adams. And obviously that's not ideal. I mean, you don't want that. And as Ron said, Coach Spurrier said they addressed it on Sunday. Well, what I was told, which is all I can go by, is that, things were hashed out. Everything's fine. It was a sort of a heated argument in the heat of the battle. And it's understandable. Not the first time it's happened, won't be the last time it happened. But, yeah, and the other game, the Vanderbilt game, Spurrier's talking with Adams, trying to figure out what Clowney's doing, and then he talks to Coach Ward about it because he's dropped back into coverage. And I don't think Spurrier wanted their best pass rusher drop back into coverage, and I think that was a big issue, and that's why he was so frustrated.
Yeah, I don't think that the conflict between the coaches is really something to buy into and to worry about, on a daily basis. I don't think anyone should wake up and say, oh, man, are Bucken and Adams, are they going to get along today in practice? I just don't think it's really that big of a concern. I mean, there's a lot of different personalities on this coaching staff. You've got Botkin, who seems to be fired up about just about everything. Botkin can go shoot around a golf and just be stoked about it. I mean, triple bogey, and he's either super mad or he's super glad or he's super sad about a lot of different things. And then you've got Everett Sands, and he's very seemingly mild mannered, at least speaking to media, and Grady Brown. Those guys are a little soft-spoken, and Deke Adams doesn't really come off to me as someone that wants a full-grown man in his face at any given time. So I'm not necessarily buying into the fact that there's some sort of constant strife in the locker rooms or behind closed doors that fans really need to be worrying about. I just think sometimes in the heat of the moment, you're struggling against a really tough Georgia team that's been pounding the ball down your throat, and things like that are going to happen. I don't think it's a major cause for concern.
And yet the unfortunate part about that is that you're talking about it involves the same guy. Deke Adams both times, and so then he's the new kid, right? So you're wondering, is he not fitting in? What's going on? Is it tough? And why isn't the defensive line that was supposed to be the best unit on the team performing, as just an average unit? I mean, now they still have good numbers, but why aren't they living up to expectations? And so all that kind of casts an unfair spotlight and glare on Deke Adams, and I'm sure that he was the last person in the world that wanted Spurrier in his face when Clowney dropped back on that coverage. But by the same token, I believe it was the next play that Clowney goes out and forces a fumble, and Deke Adams was out there pumping his fist. I mean, he was fired up that Clowney made that play. I think very happy that he turned that around the very next play.
The crazy thing about the Georgia scenario, it was a 3-and-out. Mm-hmm. And then it happened. That was not a scenario.
Spurrier was furious, and then they're up 28-0. It's like it didn't intuitively make sense.
Well, we've come to that part in the show where it's halftime. Now, last time, we're going to let Chris stay because he got jealous. He didn't get any snacks last time. And
I
Ron,
did not get any fried pickles.
Yeah, he didn't get the pickles. We're going to leave the pickles alone, the pickle jokes. I escaped that episode without my mom listening, thank goodness.
Good.
And save me the embarrassment. But we're going to give Ron Aiken and Avery a break here while me and Chris get to sample some of Ron Bauer's barbecue, looks like here at halftime at the back porch here at 1616 Gervais Street. Wonderful host, great cozy bar. This is a place to come with your friends and hang out, watch a ball game. I'm sure they got a great Monday Night Football scenario and Saturdays. So come on out and check these guys. And Gonna sample some wares here.
Yeah, last week we brought out some fried pickles for y'all, and y'all seem to like it a whole lot. So, in the South, it's hard. It's a challenge to have noteworthy barbecue, just like football. But we make this barbecue in-house, and we put it on quesadillas, sliders, and taco shells that we also fry in-house. And, I mean, my own opinion, they're delicious. So, what do y'all think? Well, honest opinion.
Well, I'll say this. Good barbecue doesn't really need sauce. The sauce is a compliment. And we have a lot of listeners and members on the site who love barbecue. You got to see in the off-season some of the biggest conversations are about barbecue joints in South Carolina and around the Southeast. And having had a bite or two, this is really good. I haven't tasted the sauce yet. Chris Wellbaum sneaking in over here, getting the big mitts and some of this Q. But yeah, I mean, without sauce, it's got a great distinct taste. You can tell you spent some time preparing this. So I'm going to try a little sauce here and let Chris give his little immediate review.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really good. Like CJ said, that's sort of my test too. Like, no sauce, that's good. It's good to go. And it can't be dry. It's definitely not dry. It's really good. And I like the sauce. It's got some pop to it. It's a little tangy, but you don't need it. If you don't want it, you don't need it. So it's really good.
Definitely,
nice job.
We, that barbecue cooked yesterday for probably 8 to 9 hours. In the sauce we make in house. So we like our barbecue, and we're pretty sure that most others that have tried it like it too.
That sauce is on point.
Yep, you like that?
Yeah, it's a great compliment. It's pulled pork, so I like that texture. Some barbecue joints locally chop it up real fine. Mm-hmm. It's got great texture. Probably making people at home that haven't had dinner yet
a little hungry. Yeah,
come on down. Ron will take care of you guys.
Well, I just want to say that we are at 1616 Gervais Street at the corner of Pickens and Gervais, and this Saturday we are opening up at 11 o'clock in the morning because we have a 12 o'clock game. Normally it's 4:30, but we're going to be open for the game. We're going to serve brunch. We're going to have a little bit of a special menu that we've been working on.
Wait a minute. Now, people drink beer at 11 o'clock in the morning?
Oh.
On Saturdays, right? Only on Saturdays?
You'd be shocked.
No, liquor only before noon.
That's right.
Yeah, unfortunately I won't be here. I'll be in Orlando. Look for us on TV. Hopefully we won't get creamed. That's what everybody says. You're on the sidelines. Have we gotten creamed yet? Usually I grab the nearest photographer when imminent danger is here, and I shove him into the fray as a buffer between me and the flying player out of bounds. Man, this is some good stuff. Yeah.
Well, we'll be serving that barbecue this Saturday, so anybody that's in town, come on up. And like the game's at 12, so we're gonna hope to have a good group of Gamecocks up here. Like I say every week, follow us at Backporch 1616 on Twitter, and search for us on Facebook at the Back Porch on Gervais. And I think next week we're going to try out the sweet potato fries, and I have been holding off on y'all a little bit. The sweet potato fries are going to catch you a little off guard. Some people have a hard time deciding whether it's candy or actually sweet potatoes.
We're going to need an update, too, on the Gamecock Central member Super Nachos, the sloppy nachos.
Oh, yeah.
The Bon Rud, who, by the way, I'm riding with Friday down. We got 2 crews and 2 cars, and I think Jeff and me and the person not named will be in the point car leaving around midday, and then we got the chase car coming in later that afternoon. We'll keep you updated from the road, but hopefully by the season's end you will have created these nachos we keep talking about, and we may invite the person that is named after to make a fool of himself and eat them.
I'd hope so. And by the Clemson game, we'll definitely have them. But why don't you do us a favor, and on the way down there, tell it or get an idea of what exactly he wants on his nachos. Tell him about the pulled pork. We can always throw that on the nachos too.
I'll have 6.5 hours to pick his feeble brain, and I will do so in between listening to 80s metal, which is his classic, which I like some of that too. I was a kid in the 80s,
No, CJ, word of advice. This particular member of the site has very specific dietary restrictions on trips to the state of Florida. The last I shared a car with him down to Florida, we had a very serious incident involving some food that did not agree with him.
Well, I'll remember to bring a trash can.
If you see him with a Coke Zero and an ice cream sandwich,
that's a volatile mix. I was there.
And tell him, make sure he doesn't get that again.
Yeah, I was there then, and I saw the aftermath, and I think on the trip to the stadium after that, I went back to the hotel room and got a trash can out of the room and gave it to him and said, "Here, keep this between your knees in case you need it." But yeah, it should be an exciting trip. Some people ride roller coasters, some people skydive. I ride with Von Rudd, so we'll see what happens on the mystery machine. And Ron, thank you again for giving us a sample and coming in during a halftime break. We will bring you back in at the end of the show for the porch predictions.
Sounds good.
We're waiting on that, and then we're going to invite Avery and Ron.
Ron, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man.
Thanks. I can't wait to dig into what's so there's nothing left.
Oops. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Little payback.
By the way, I only had one of those pickles last time, just for the record.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry, man. I should have saved you some.
That's quite all right.
I don't feel too bad about it, though.
I think it was the same party was guilty both times. I think he said.
I hear you.
That's always
That's understandable.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, let's talk about UCF. That's the game coming up. Let's talk about their personnel, their strengths, their weaknesses, all that stuff. Any discussion about UCF, probably have to start with their quarterback, Blake Bortles.
You got a good junior leader there. He's got thrown 38 career touchdowns to 11 interceptions. He threw his first interception, and I believe it was 232 attempts just last week. That's a school record, which is pretty impressive at a school where almost every passing record is held by Dante Culpepper. I think his career touchdown mark will not be threatened by Blake Bortles. I think it's like 84 or something ridiculous. But he's another good, strong, pro-style, confident leader, able to deliver the ball to, I think they have 4 different receivers with 100 yards receiving, has confidence in his line and his guys around him. And so, he's another capable quarterback, just another capable quarterback that South Carolina's faced. They faced 3 of them, in Bryn Renner and Austin Carter-Samuels and obviously Aaron Murray. And so it's nothing new kind of from that perspective. Just another really good guy that has confidence. And then you look at, he's a junior, and we mentioned, and you got a junior running back, Storm Johnson, who I think, 117 yards against Penn State. What was it? 89 of that came on 1 carry for a touchdown. 59, that's right. 89 didn't sound right. Yeah, 59-yard touchdown run. So that was a lot of his yards came on the 1 carry, but that's how you get big yardage numbers.
I was just going to remind our audience and everyone who may not have researched it, the 3 opponents they've had prior to the matchup.
Florida International, University, Akron, and Penn State.
So they played Irmo, Dutch Fork, and Penn State.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Akron went. I mean, who did they give a scare? They put a scare into Michigan, and
they gave Michigan a scare. But FIU is terrible.
Yeah, they're terrible.
I mean, they are awful. Mm-hmm. But so they haven't played great competition. But I think some of the things that they showed through the first 3 games, you can sort of translate, because Bortles is Penn State's defense. I don't think is South Carolina's, but they went on the road and they did pretty well. I mean, they won the game. They put up over 30 points, and Bortles, he's a big, tall guy. He's not Connor Shaw, but he can move around a little bit. Their offensive line, they're getting back their left tackle, Torian Wilson, who's their best offensive lineman at left tackle. They didn't have him against Penn State, so they'll have him. They've got a couple capable backs. Their receivers are pretty good. J.J. Wharton's a really good receiver. He's got great hands. They got a few other guys that are pretty capable too, and so, I think they can score some points on South Carolina. I don't think this is a team they're going to go down and shut down in Orlando.
When you look at Bortles, he's one of the more efficient passers in the nation. He ranks 5th in the nation in pass efficiency with right at 100, and I think it's like 199. That's like his rating. I'm not sure exactly how they calculate that. Not that big of a stat buff, but he's very efficient and throws downfield well. And he's got some good targets to throw to, as we mentioned earlier. J.J. Wharton's obviously very good, but they've had 3 receivers to have 100-yard receiving games. So at any point, any one guy can come out and have a big day. So that's something for South Carolina's secondary to be looking at. And as Grady Brown said earlier this week, Bortles is up there with as good as any quarterback that that South Carolina will face this year. I'm not sure that he was counting Aaron Murray into that category since South Carolina's already played them. But looking forward, Bortles is as good, if not better, than anyone that South Carolina is going to face, according to Brown.
Yeah, just looking at their receivers, I've got some numbers in front of me. UCF's 100-yard receivers this year. Rashad Perryman had 113 versus Akron. Rennell Hall had 127 versus FIU. And J.J. Wharton, as you mentioned, 101 yards versus Penn State. So pretty capable receivers to throw to that he has confidence in. So what are they averaging? Like 36, I think, 0.6 maybe points per game. Right. Don't think they'll get there. But that's still an offense, and I think it's the first time in school history, I believe, that UCF has scored 30 or more points in 3 straight games. So they're confident in their offense, and let's not forget who their offensive coordinator is, and that's former Citadel coach Charlie Taff, who has a connection, as we know, with Everett Sands. He was his coach at the Citadel when those two paired up with a few other folks to come beat South Carolina in Columbia. For those that can remember that Citadel win, like 35-34, 30-36, something like that.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks for reminding me of that.
I was going to say, Ron, you're the only one that remembers that.
Yeah, I think I erased the brain cells that contain those memories from that day. I'm looking forward to going to see a new stadium. Sold out. It should be, they played Texas a couple years ago. I think one of their opening season there, and gave them a battle to the end, apparently. And so I'm looking forward to going to a new stadium for me. I've been in all the stadiums in SEC, NC State, North Carolina, and the bowl stadiums. But it's always neat to go to a new place, check it out, compare it to. You really can't compare it to any SEC stadium except Vanderbilt. The difference being theirs will be full, and Vanderbilt's is empty. And so I'm looking forward to that. It should be sunny. I think it's 82, partly cloudy is what the prediction is. The only thing that scares me a little bit, on the road, noon game, will it take them a little bit of time to get going? You got to get up on them early, but I think maybe we'll have a little flashback instead of Noah Whiteside, maybe Nick Jones or
Jameer
Bird,
a Bird sighting, or even a Pharaoh Cooper sighting. I mean, he mentioned today, Steve Spurrier Jr., that he was going to try to get Pharaoh Cooper more involved in the offense this coming Saturday. So look for maybe splitting him out and running him on a deep route downfield and taking a shot at it.
And comparing him to other speedsters on the team, how fast is the Egyptian Lover?
The Egyptian Lover, Pharaoh Cooper.
Does somebody have an MCM?
But no, I mean,
Pharaoh Cooper, I'm sure, has been an MCM at one point or another.
Mm-hmm. But he's got wheels, right? So, I mean, is this where we get to see it?
Cooper, I mean, he's just a good athlete. He was the best player on the field during the Shrine Bowl last year and brought in as a DB, but they moved him to receiver. Felt they could probably get him on the field sooner that way. And I think really he could be really good at either spot. But, yeah, he's got some good size. He's got good hands. They tried to get him involved in the North Carolina game, which was an interesting thing to do. They were backed up as late in the game, but they tried to throw him a ball because, UNC sort of botched Pharaoh Cooper's recruiting and ignored him for a long time and then came back late and tried to get him late in the game. So I sort of found that humorous, but that whole exchange. But, yeah, I mean, if Cooper gets on the field. No, Larry Fedor was not a fan of that. And they asked him after the game, they said, why did you call a timeout? And that was basically why,
I'm confused a little bit. Is it Pharaoh Cooper or Cedric Cooper that's the official MCM of Gamecock Central Radio?
It's any Cooper, the Cooper of your choice.
No, Ron's vote is going to be Cedric because he's got a definite man crush on him.
Yeah, I just want to say that I was in that press conference after the game with Larry Fedora, and boy, if that wasn't the most awkward exchange between reporters and a head coach that I've been a part of in my short journalism career. 3 different guys tried to squeeze an answer out of him of why he called those timeouts, and he said, because I thought I could make him punt. And they said, well, why did that matter? Well, because I thought I could block it. And why did that matter? Because I thought I could block it. And then later on, someone packages the question in a different way and says something like, well, if Spurrier hadn't thrown to Pharaoh Cooper at the end of on their last drive, would you have called those timeouts? And he said, probably not.
Yeah.
So we're at the point now where, having a little preview of the team, we're getting down to 15 minutes left to go. Can we talk a little bit about how you think it's going to play out there, Chris, Ron, Avery?
Sure. Predictions for the game? Prediction time? We will not be. Alyssa requested that we do rap lyric predictions. I'm not good enough to do that.
Give me about 3 minutes.
3 minutes. I'm not sure about that.
Not 3 minutes.
You would have to freestyle. You can't write it down. That's cheating. But
3
anyway,
minutes for Ron. I always heard it took 60 seconds. But go ahead, Ron.
My lady would have a much different answer to that, and it would shock you how long I can rap. That's what we're talking about.
Okay, Chris.
I'm not even going to touch that. All right.
Back to the predictions.
Let's say, predictions. Prediction, I think South Carolina wins this game. It is going to be a tough game. I think we're going to come back from after this game, and there are going to be some people concerned about this or that. To me, the key is the offense not going down there and turning the ball over a bunch. Improving on special teams. Not having punts hitting you on the leg, not getting away from it, fumbling the ball, turning it over, throwing interceptions. Those are going to be keys to the game. And I think UCF's going to score some points. I do think they are. I think they're going to score some touchdowns. The key for South Carolina is to make them drive to do it and not give them a short field. But, I think South Carolina can put up 30-something points. I think UCF can put up 20-something. And if South Carolina's linebackers can play well, secondary play well, and they come away from this game not only with the win but with a good performance against a good UCF offense at home, I think it'll give a lot of confidence going forward.
I agree with you on that point for sure. I think the offense goes down there and stomps. I love the way Connor Shaw is playing and the way that the running backs are rushing. I love the confidence from everybody on offense and the leadership as well. Connor Shaw seems like a man on a mission when he's in his press conferences with his answers. He's very tight. He's very secure. He's very certain. He's very focused. And I think that shows on the field. So I think the offense goes down there and does what they want to. I think 40 points is not unreasonable if they decide to keep the foot on the gas. My fear is that the defense should go down there and be effective, but might not. I'm not certain. I'm not sold yet that this defense is to the level of the elite caliber that we've seen the last few years. And this will be a test for them to be able to prove that on the road. They've got some road monkeys to get off their back offensively in terms of what Georgia was able to do, and so they got some answers that they need to produce, especially from that defensive front and generating some pressure. Now, that having been said, they're still, I think, first or second in the SEC in sacks, and so they're getting that pressure, but they need to be able to do that in a way that shuts an opponent down. They had a good outing against Vanderbilt, really disrupted what those guys did. Only going to the Wildcat in the second half gave them a little life, along with 2 turnovers. Otherwise, it was just a rout. And so I think you need to continue what you did against Vanderbilt defensively, and you should be in good shape for a win. The things that would have to go wrong for Central Florida to win, I think, are too many.
Yeah, before we turn it back over to Avery for his thoughts, I just wanted to interject because Ron talking about the Wildcat made me think of something. I watched UCF Penn State game, and you're right, Ron. Against Vanderbilt, South Carolina had some trouble. I think I said last week, was it 6.5 yards a carry against the Wildcat for Vandy? But UCF, they'll run some Wildcat too. They've got a former quarterback named Jeff Godfrey who plays receiver for them. They'll line him up in the Wildcat, and they ran it one time against Penn State, 49 yards. Should have been a touchdown, but he's got sort of a bum ankle, and he sort of ran out of gas and fell down there after he got past midfield. So that's another concern. I'm sure UCF's offensive staff is taking a look at that. Avery, your thoughts on the game?
I think this is a game South Carolina wins. I think it's going to be somewhat of a ECU 2012 type game where the score looks convincing, but the game itself not quite as convincing. Or maybe that was the UAB win. I'm not real sure, but I don't think this is a game that's going to look very pretty. Most UCF games aren't. I think South Carolina goes out there and maybe puts up 38 and allows maybe 13 to UCF. Gives up a couple, long drives, maybe when the defense kind of wears down in some of the swampy heat, depending on the weather conditions. I like UCF's offense, and I'm going to agree with Ron that the South Carolina defense isn't playing to the level that it's played, the past 3 seasons. This isn't a top 10, ranked nationally defense. This is a defense that's still figuring itself out. The secondary still got some room to improve. The linebackers, while they're a physically talented bunch, they've still got to figure out how to play together. They all know how to go out and be superstars on their own like they were in high school, but they still are needing to figure out what they should be doing on each and every play, what they should let their teammates do for them, and they need to learn how to had to kind of stick to their assignments and not try to do too much on one play. So I think UCF is a learning experience for them. I think they go out and actually play well against UCF's offense. Giving up 13 points to that offense isn't a bad day by any means. And I think South Carolina wins handily.
All right, I'm going to make this succinct here since we run out of time. I think USC offense will have its way. I mean, I'm looking at 38-24, my prediction. I think, UCF will have the emotion of the crowd and whatnot. Will give them a boost, but I think the SEC lines will wear them down. The pressure on the quarterback, he hasn't seen Clowney. There might be a Chaz Sutton sighting. Kelsey Quarles may come in, stuff some big runs. Get them out of their game plan a little bit, make them a little more erratic. Get on especially if they get like a 2-touchdown lead early on, take the crowd out, force them out of the game plan, and then they can put the pressure on. So that's it for me. I will say this, we had a question about expanding on how this game could affect the rest of the season. USC rolls in this game, and it gets the momentum going for the rest second half. Well, not really second half. We're not halfway yet, but the middle section, especially the 3 road games coming up. What do you think about that as far as how critical this game is for momentum?
Yeah, I think it's critical. First of all, you can't lose this game. It's not a conference game, but obviously you lose this game, and that is not a good thing for the season because then you're a 500 team. You've lost to UCF on the road, and not to take anything away from them. They're a solid club, but you don't want to lose to UCF on the road, and it'd be good to get a win on the road going into that tough 3-game road SEC stretch you're talking about. So I think the biggest thing is come away with a win, play well overall, don't have any injuries, and then have the defense take some strides of some sort. Linebacker, secondary, get better.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. This is a chance, especially after the off week, that you need to come out and just get back into rhythm, get back into gear. You've got some key road games coming up down the stretch in October to look at. And then obviously, after this, Kentucky coming into town, and that again is a conference game. So the lights aren't out if you happen to go down and mess the bed in this game, as people say. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they get back on track and they establish the kind of identity that they're going to need to have the rest of the way if they want to compete for the things that they're still on the table. A 1-loss season. Now, whether that means an SEC divisional title or not, that's going to be determined in part by what happens with the Georgia Bulldogs and LSU on Saturday, but they need to take care of business.
We'll get to that prediction at the very end. But real quick here, it's time for our weekly porch prediction from Ron Bowers here at the back porch.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Gamecock Central for posting my opinion article on the Insiders Forum called last Sunday. It's called The Most Dangerous Game, and it's basically just about the state of the UCF program and how it's trending upward. Although I do believe that this game could be the most dangerous game, I also believe it could be the most productive game of the season. As you guys said, on the road against a formidable opponent, this is a heck of a test before our 3-game away slate, which obviously that could make or break our season. Coming home without a loss there would be nice. It could be a close one, or we could make come out and make a national statement because I think the media is second-guessing the Gamecocks right now. And I'm hoping the buffet opens at noon on Saturday and that all the players get a little bit of something to eat. So I'm going to say, I'm not going to hold back, and I'm going to say Connor and the offense make the difference, and we're going to call 42-17.
All right. We like that prediction there. We'll make for a great show next week to say how accurate you were in your porch prediction here, Ron.
So.
We appreciate it.
It'll be nice to have football to talk about instead of battle raps and pickle wagons and things of that nature.
Okay, well, so we're down to the last 6-7 minutes of the show. So real quick, there's another big SEC game this weekend. Quick thoughts on UGA LSU. I'll say real quick, I think there'll be no defense in this game. I predict a high-scoring affair. Georgia at home. LSU on the road should be in the 30s. I really don't know. You flip a coin, who comes out? LSU, just because USC needs LSU to win. So that's what I'm predicting.
Yeah, Gamecock fans definitely need to root for LSU to win the game, and If I had to say, I would probably pick LSU as well. Georgia's defense has some concerns. LSU's defense has some concerns. They lost so many guys, and that's a program that typically reloads on defense, and they do have a lot of talent on defense, but you don't lose that many guys. We've seen it with South Carolina. You don't lose that many veteran guys or NFL guys and just remain the exact same the next season. That rarely happens. So I think it's going to be a game where I think LSU can really run the ball. I mean, Jeremy Hill, say what you want about him off the field, but he is an absolute monster at running back, and so I sort of not sure if Georgia can stop him, and I think that Zach Mettenberger will have another good game. That's another interesting subplot to that, and we'll have to see.
The sensible pick to me seems to be LSU in terms of the strength of the team, the speed, the defense, the athletes that LSU brings to the table. But for some reason, I just want to pick Georgia in this. I think they surprise people. I think they win the game at home. I saw that environment firsthand, a couple weeks ago, and I was impressed. I mean, those guys are fired up. They came out to play. They're hungry. That looked to me like a hungry Georgia team. That was eager to accomplish some things, and I think they actually find a way to win that game. Maybe they do it late, and they basically just put a sock in the SEC East in terms of South Carolina's chances, because I think if were that to happen, obviously too many things would have to go against Georgia for them to not to win it. And so I don't know, for some reason I like Georgia in that game.
And when you talk about a student section that stays all four quarters, that's Georgia and Sanford Stadium there. That was a raucous environment. I don't like any team's chances to go in there and win, but I will pick LSU here. Just really like what LSU's running game has to offer, and I think they'll be able to open it up on Georgia, maybe deflate the crowd with some super long drives, some plays. Some drives to get up in the upper teens and number of plays and chew the clock up. I think it's going to be a fantastic game, but I think LSU picks up the win and sort of a 31-28 type tilt.
Yeah, Georgia has a knack for never doing what's in South Carolina's best interest, either when they play each other or down the road. Like the things that would have had to have happened in seasons past for South Carolina to get to the championship game, they needed Georgia to lose down the road. They never seem to. When South Carolina was pulling for LSU to represent the conference well, that didn't work out. So I think South Carolina fans have a bad taste of rooting for Georgia to do things that are in their best interest, and LSU. And so that's what sort of helps me along that road to seeing Georgia win, because neither, that's kind of a worst case scenario for South Carolina, and wouldn't surprise me if that's precisely what happens.
We got time for one last question. Thanks for submitting them. Next week, please submit more. Real quick, I'll just throw this to Ron to make this real quick here. Shaw's going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks ever.
Wait. You want Ron to make his answer quick?
He is if you jump on him, like really bark at him. All right, real quick. Shaw has got the stats. He's got the pedigree. Mm-hmm. He's obviously Spurrier's number one choice. Why does Spurrier keep throwing out the hint and possibility that Dylan Thompson will make an appearance when it doesn't look like he really means it?
I know. It's a good question. I think he just likes Dylan Thompson so much and they want to get him some experience. But Connor Shaw has definitely proven this season with his play that he's the guy. He's playing the best football of his career. He's gotten better and taken some strides to improve the things that were his weaknesses. He's still beyond the one fumble, protects the football. Spurrier kind of went to great lengths to deflect attention away from that being Dylan's fault, that interception that helped turn that game around a little bit and gave Vandy life when they had no life whatsoever. So I think he just wants to see him play because he loves the way that Dylan Thompson plays quarterback. Dylan Thompson plays quarterback like Steve Spurrier plays quarterback. He stays in the pocket, just ad nauseum, will stay there forever to wait for a route to develop, and then we'll throw a great pass. And that's what Steve Spurrier likes to see. So he's more of Steve's kind of quarterback, but Connor Shaw is the leader. That's why he's the starter. That's why this team has had the success they've had because of him.
I've got to just add that if you can't figure out why Steve Spurrier always talks about Dylan Thompson, Spurrier is like every fan in the country. He loves the backup quarterback. Just last week, he said that Brandon Nosovich was the best quarterback in practice. So,
Well, I think he likes to put the heat on his players. He doesn't want anybody to get too comfortable. He was a backup quarterback for how many years in the NFL? 10, 11 years? I mean, that's one reason why he's such a great play caller, because he sat there and watched football at its finest from the best seat in the house for 10 years. And so he can analyze a scenario on the field better than anybody, and that's what his main strength as a play caller is.
I never thought about that he's used to seeing the game from that precise perspective.
Well, you can thank me later, Ron.
That's right.
But we're down to the last couple seconds here. Just want to thank the Back Porch again for hosting us. The Gamecock Central crew will be on the road Friday, heading down to Orlando. We got the rookie going with us, and Ron, and I'm going to be riding in a roller coaster with Bon Rudd, and we'll talk about all the events that go on and our trip to Orlando next week. Come back next week, and we'll talk about it then. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it.